Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this channel. My name is Augustine Ambe. Before I go into the very unique show that I want to present to you today, I want you to subscribe to our channel if you haven't subscribed yet. And when you subscribe, please invite your friends to also subscribe. Share our videos with them so they see what you see in our channel to come there all the time. And please, I want to also appeal to you to go and become a contributor on our Patreon site. We need to support this channel because we intend to grow. We intend to grow our media reach, because we need to continue to be the ones who tell our story rather than other people. Now, if you don't support us and we're not able to tell our stories, then the public will be the one telling lies about us, and people who don't know any better will go with those lies, and it disadvantages us. So please support this channel, both by subscribing if you haven't subscribed yet, and also go to our Patreon channel and also be a contributor to this channel. I have a very unique show today to present, and I call it unique because I'm going to show you a show that we shot shortly after the struggle was beginning to pick up steam. A lot of public got scared, was scared of our leaders, went and captured some, threw them in jail. Some escaped out of the country, and those who remained in Nigeria, who escaped into Nigeria, were there trying to put a leadership together to pick up from what has happened inside Ambazonia. At the time, Barrister Bobga Hamni Mbuton had just arrived in the United States, and I was very lucky to have him join Rogers, and we sat and we had this conversation. We discussed it very exhaustively, but at the time things were moving so fast that I decided not to put out the video. I just reviewed it again, and I thought it's fascinating. I was so compelled sitting back and watching that video that was made before the Ambazonian government was formed, before Siseko was picked up, before a lot of what is happening now happened. I want you to take a look, listen very carefully, listen to what we were saying, and see how that has impacted what is happening now or not impacted. Gentlemen, I just want to welcome the two of you on the set. I think this is like my most important set as far. I have my very good friend Roger there, and Barrister Bobga joining us. Barrister, this is your second time on the set, and like I promised you the last time, we didn't have enough time to discuss all the issues. So this is an opportunity to continue, and I'm glad that Roger is here. And Roger, you join me in. This is our real guest for both of us, so you join me in asking him questions. But I want to open this part today with something that is going on right now in the territory. It is very critical, and but I want us to talk about the leadership of our struggle, and I want us to talk about it in general first, because leadership is very important in whatever we are doing. Leadership in the family, leadership in corporate leadership, leadership in government, leadership in struggles. There's nothing that works without leadership. So I want to start by asking you, Barrister, to tell me how do you define leadership?
I see leadership like service in a very special character. That is service where you go beyond yourself to give the direction to a process or a project that every other person engaged in that process or project follows your guidance.
Okay. Roger?
Yeah, I mean, that is a very good definition of leadership that he has given. I mean, leadership is basically putting yourself at the service of the people. And you can extend that into service leadership, transformational leadership, and all types of various subgroups of leadership. And I think he himself has really practiced what we can call transformational leadership when he stood at the city chemist roundabout and addressed the lawyers, and this revolution and our quest for self-determination picked up. So that would be transformational leadership. We have seen Wilbur do some form of transformational leadership too, which is at Parliament, bringing your followers and the people to a certain level of awareness that creates transformation, transforming the people from political non-entities that we have talked about to experts and people determined to take the struggle to another level. So leadership encompasses all of that. It involves you putting yourself at the service of the people and putting all the skills that you have learned to be able to lead the people and lead the struggle to a certain level.
Okay. And I totally agree with both of you. I will also add that leadership has to do with the ability to coordinate or bring together assets that would otherwise be out there, not used because there's no force or no one bringing them together for a particular goal or vision. And if we add all the elements that we've brought here, it seems to me that nothing can really work without leadership. I think leadership is very central to anything. Do we agree?
Sure. And particularly in the context of the Southern Cameroon, we have more than enough human resources, and we have, in an unprecedented manner, we have recurrent opportunities for making a successful revolution. And what has been absent has been that transformational leadership, which should, from the point of view you just put across, be able to pull together all the available resources and give them a focal direction to produce the required results within a reasonable time.
Absolutely. I want to add to that by saying that, and this continues to show the importance of leadership, that leadership is the ability to take nothing and make something out of it. And when I say nothing, I'm including really people who don't have anything or who don't even believe in themselves. And I'm going to use an example in history. It is said that Napoleon Bonaparte, who created the badge of honor that you just put on your chest, that he took people who were basically villagers with no ambition, and he, as a leader, motivated them even with that piece of cloth to put on your chest. So yes, we are agreeing that leadership is very critical, and to come to what you were already bridging us to, the people of Southern Cameroons, anytime they have been called by any leader to deliver, they have delivered. When they were called by Foncha to deliver, they delivered. When they were called by John Frundi to deliver, they deliver. You can then go into private business. So these are people who are ready. Like any other resource, it's available. Obviously, Southern Cameroon has the land, obviously the labor. It does lack the capital, which are the three items that you need to get the economy going. So
no,
we have.
I think the capital is there, because when you talk of capital, your reference is actually to the financial input. What is lacking is, if I borrow from the business world, entrepreneurship, the leadership to galvanize and operationalize the energies from the available resources that we have.
Yes, and Roger, the reason why I am starting this conversation at a very theoretical level is because, like the barrister just pointed out, even as entrepreneurship, the one thing that has been lacking, like I just said, in our struggle is leadership. The one thing that has been lacking in our economic development in our territory is leadership. Leadership, not because our people don't have it, but because the enemy has targeted that. Yeah. And yes, please pick on that.
Yeah, I mean, the barrister talked about entrepreneurship and all those. You can see all of those things happening in our region, because what La Republic has done is that.
May I correct you? In our country, it's not just a region of.
No,
what?
Exactly. You're right. You're right. In our country, in the southern Cameroons.
Yes.
So those things are happening in the southern Cameroons because what La Republic has done consistently is to tap any little thing that I can make money out of and carry it to the southern to La Republic to Cameroon, without investing anything in our country. Irrespective of all of that, the people have survived. You can see the way various cities, Kumba, Bamen, all of these cities, Mamfe, have been built. Those investments and that entrepreneurship, that keeps some of the people employed, because remember what government does as far as employment is concerned. So there is self-employment, there is entrepreneurship, and all of those things are happening without any assistance or anything from the government.
Yes.
So I just wanted to set that record straight, because our people had established that. And if you come to where this struggle is concerned, you will realize that at some point the people looked as if they were very dumb and they were not very concerned about what this struggle was all about. But when it came time for them to step up, they stepped up more than our own expectations, and they have shown that to us.
Yes, but let me say this though, and you touched on something which I wasn't going to touch on because like you just demonstrated that it's always there. I've never doubted leadership. I think what I wanted to show here is more. It's more that because it's more what has happened in terms of destroying leadership. Mm-hmm. And destroying the and I wanted the barrister, in another conversation you mentioned a lot of the businesses and the enterprises that have been destroyed, because I want to, there are two levels I want to show leadership. That leadership is very critical. Our enemies know that, so when they came, they first of all destroyed it, and I think that's part of our challenge now. But I want to show that the leadership is very critical, and I know that we built a country before. That's why when you were talking about our people building Kumbamba, man, I'm saying no, that one is something that we established already.
It's a given.
It's a given because we already built Nanga Company, we built Cameroon Bank, and some of that was destroyed. And I wanted the barrister to come on barrister, first of all, list some of that, and I think we can now start seeing why the enemy has always targeted leadership and the output of leadership, and what our challenge will be in terms of recreating that now that we are restoring ourselves.
In fact, there are so many examples. I can start with for example, the credit union that started in southern Cameroon. Mm-hmm. The credit union system is a banking system that is so adapted to the reality of our community. That is both the land and the people, and the impact that our people make on their land. This has grown so successfully that it has posed a threat to the kleptocratic banking system of the French.
Are you talking about what's going on right now?
Yes.
Please, before you go about what's going on right now, I want you. Let's take your mind
Well,
back.
we had a credit union. We had
Take your mind back to 1961, but maybe up to 70 or even the 90s.
No, I
about some of the industries that have been destroyed in our territory, both governmental and private.
Okay, I take, for example, the way the Southern Cameroon government was organized. There was West Cameroon Development Agency. That is a framework of institutional leadership for economic and social development. It sponsored a number of projects like the Santa Coffee Estate and many other government projects that blossomed, and we were already canning granulated coffee. But these are the first things that were damaged. We partnered with the Indians to establish Cadbury and Fry in Ekiliwindi, and was producing cocoa drink. It was destroyed. Marketing board, when the farmers were empowered to produce cocoa bean and coffee bean of very high quality, the marketing board, in order to assure the sustainability of comfort of the farmers during the vicissitudes of changing prices, the marketing board for stabilization of the income of the producers was established. Those are the areas that were destroyed. Cameroon Bank, which was a project of West Cameroon Development Agency, was established. And in fact, at that time, just when the mischief of, say, our joining, so-called joining of the Republic of Cameroon came to being, none of the French banks that were established in East Cameroon, as it was called, was able to give any domestic contractor more than 500,000 francs for execution of projects. But Cameroon Bank was able to finance bigger projects. And that's one of the things that, with the entrepreneurial capacity of Nanga Company, they won the contract to build the governor's office in Yaoundé, to build the governor's office and many other government institutions.
And the Prime Minister's office in Boya.
Yes, and they executed those projects with at even less, in fact, they executed it about less than 1/3 what any other company from French Cameroon would have done. And see the irony, the governor's office in Bamenda, which was begun by Nanga Company and frustrated, I think they have had about 10 other contractors, and the money that has been pumped there has been about 100 times what would have been used by Nanga to build that company, to build that building. Even the finance building, these are the same stories. So
just to continue, I don't think those are all the companies, because I want us to.
There is PowerCam.
Yes.
There was PowerCam.
Yes.
And PowerCam began slowly, because a child begins to crawl, then stands up, takes the first steps, walks before he starts running. The way PowerCam was started in Yoke, producing hydroelectricity, it was indicative that by this time we could have been producing electricity that could be supplied right to Ghana, if Ghana did not have the Volta project. But that again, I've called it economic assassination of viable projects. You can go, or even our educational system, because we initially had 6 years in primary school, standard 6. That standard 6 was rubbished, and they brought in class 7, and eventually they contracted it again, so that they have just, like you put a piece of metal into fire, when it is hot you poke it into ice cold water, so the metal becomes warped.
Okay.
So what we have experienced is that we had projects that were solid foundations of the growth into national public corporations, and because the private sector was participating in it. And in this private sector, I must mention, you had Nanga Company, you had Kilo, you had Che, you had Niba Albert.
Tell us the story of Niba Automobile. What happened?
Niba Automobile was operating very well. I mean, the contracts he negotiated to represent Volvo was, I mean, it's a Swedish car.
Yes.
He negotiated to represent Volvo, and the business was going good. He also brought in Diaspora from Japan. It was going good. The people, like you throw corn to a chick, you keep throwing it from outside and you come inside until when it gets into the house, you shut the door. That's how they tricked Neighbor Albert to move his company from Depanda Hill in Mutengene over to Bonaberi. And as soon as he invested in Bonaberi, they slammed taxes. And even though he fought the matter until he won it in the Supreme Court, up to this moment, he has not taken the fruits of that judgment.
What? Mm-hmm.
In the case of Cameroon Bank, Cameroon Bank was liquidated when it was more viable than most other banks in Cameroon. And this is the indicator that the target was not simplistically those institutions. It was because of the fact that their roots were Southern Cameroon.
Yes, and that was part of the disempowering. What Roger, do you have anything to add to this and some of the companies, if you remember some?
Well, there are so many of them he has talked about. I mean, we've talked about WADA,
yes, WADA,
Urban Valley Development Authority. We've talked about those, and these things that he has listed underscores what we've talked about before. Because when you call yourself a federation, right? Because we came into this unit as a federation. You had West Cameroon and East Cameroon. If that federation was actually genuine, it was an honest federation, these companies would not have been dismantled, because these companies would have been empowered in order to be able to take care of that or that state, right? To build on that state. We have all the states that we have in the United States here. You build that economic base of that particular state so that state can grow and then contribute into the national treasury. You don't take down those corporations that are providing employment and building that state in order to undermine it. So their purpose was never to grow the Southern Cameroons, but to absorb the Southern Cameroons.
It was really killing the industrial base.
It was killing the industrial base. And the reason I'm making this point is because there are still people today who believe that we should be in a federation with these people.
Yeah, don't go too fast.
Let me correct something there.
Yes.
Rogers started off by saying that we came into a federation. I just want to clarify this. Legally and in strict play of democratic practice, we never entered into a federation. A federation was contemplated, and if you look at the two alternatives and the conditionalities that motivated Southern Cameroonians to vote that they would join but the Independent Republic of Cameroon instead of Nigeria, there were 8 key areas that were reserved as the areas where the two equal states in the projected union were going to participate, and the rest of it was going to be within the state, each of the states.
Control of the state.
But on the 30th of September, Ahidjo unveiled, with the complicity of France and the United Kingdom, he betrayed his secret agenda that he had no intention of getting into whatever federation, because indeed those conditions in the two alternatives did not even offer what somebody would call correctly a federation. It offered a confederation. It was loose enough for maximum, very good security for the internal interest of Southern Cameroon, but this was swept away.
Yes.
So see, that is not what we are debating. The fact of the matter is that what the Southern Cameroons knew that it was getting into was a federation. what the United Nations presented to us, to our people, was a federation.
During the plebiscite,
Yes,
what
so-
they asked us to vote for.
Yes,
Yes.
so that should be clear.
Yeah.
We can go into the legalities and all what Ijo did.
Well, I think
But
what the
we-
lawyers, let me see.
No, what
just
I'm
say
saying
this.
is that we never even attained what
Yeah,
the United
but-
Nations
no,
Yes.
promised.
What we are saying.
He's
what
saying
I'm
that after the plebiscite, everything
That was
became
it.
wild.
Yes, but
and
what
nothing
I'm
has happened.
saying,
Yes.
you are right. Everything that you have said is correct. What I am saying is that I am drawing attention to the people who are preaching federation today.
Yes, but I will come
This
to
is-
that.
This is what we got. So
In fact, my point reinforces your
Yes,
own,
exactly.
that whoever is preaching federation should know that at no point in time has
Correct.
there been a letter or spirit of federation,
Yeah.
and therefore you cannot go back to nothing.
yeah.
The only way you can go back, if I go by a late Honorable Mbile's very honest recollections, which he published before dying, of the Fumban Conference, is that the Fumban Conference never concluded its job and it was suspended, and therefore no federation was established.
Okay.
So you cannot go back from where we are to nothing.
Yeah.
We started from nothing, we are in nothing. If we are going back, we are going to nothing. It is not by the flag or by the name that you establish a federation. It has to be a veritable federation anchored in the reality of the letter and spirit of Resolution 1608 that sanctified the vote on the two alternatives.
And I really thank you for going back and I think you just went one step back from where I was.
Yeah.
You went one step back to say that while we talk about this destruction going on, it was totally illegal.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yes. Now, I want to. I have a process that I'm going here.
No, you're welcome.
So we've mentioned the existing companies that were destroyed. They did not end there. They also make sure that new ones don't get established. Because my understanding is that, and you can correct me, my understanding is that if you wanted to establish a business in the southern Cameroons, because you have to get government permit, they would not give you the permit. They would tell you, if you go to Douala, like you said, they moved Niba to Douala. If you go to Douala, they will actually give you they will actually finance that idea you have. So they will not allow you to develop it in the southern Cameroons. Now, I have an example, and I don't know if you can clarify. I heard that Dr. Youngbang wanted to build his clinic in Bamenda, and he was not allowed to build it there, but was financed to build it in Douala. Do you have any information to that? There are quite a few examples.
I'm not really privy to that. What I know as one of the structural strategies of disempowerment of Southern Cameroon excuse me, is that we all did in secondary school location of industries. The things that attract an industry to be located somewhere: labor, raw material, and capital. What the government of Cameroon did is that the headquarters of most banks are in Douala. Almost virtually every bank is in Douala. And wherever you are, you put a file applying for a loan with all the red tapes, because the private sector in Cameroon is not very different from the public sector. You might have to go and do the footwork in Douala.
Wow.
And let me come. So this structural disempowerment is that sometimes they work on the psychology. You find that everything you want for a thriving industry will be found only in Douala. They kill the roads which were passable in southern Cameroon. A businessman would rather go and locate where those facilities exist. If you notice, except after Nigeria insisted in the Green Tree Agreement and the conspiracies in the international economic level led to the African Development Bank heeding to the request of Nigeria that part of the settlement in the Green Tree Agreement was that they must tar the road from Ekok to Manfe and from Ekok to Bamenda. And that is how, it's not Cameroon's voluntary decision that those roads to be tarred. Otherwise, they allowed those roads to rot so that everything we had to do, whether by transportation, by road, had to force us to go and establish in Yaoundé or Douala. By air, they destroyed our airport in Bisongabang, they destroyed our airport in Bali, they destroyed our airport in Tico. These are international airports. I remember full well that, patients were flown from Tico Airport, including my late father, from there to Ibadan when Professor Nomangu was working there for operations.
Okay.
Even Abendong was flown from there. So you have a situation where they denature the potential of Southern Cameroon and create a false advantage.
Yes.
So that people move but to that area,
but
to their own area.
Yes, but and that was unfortunate because the Southern Cameroons was a more indigenously created and to be actually more creative than even La République.
Yeah.
Because in La République they were dominated by French interests. In our territory, we've named Nanga Company, we've named a lot of the Santa Coffee Estate and some of the initiatives that were actually homegrown businesses.
In East Cameroon, there were no such companies. The companies that were there were direct French men. And in the case of Nanga Company, the government was owing.
Yes, I wanted you to talk about why Nanga Company fell.
Nanga Company did contracts for the government, and the government will not pay them. And Nanga Company, at some point, because they didn't receive their money for jobs completed from the government decided to shut down Nanga Company for a tax, non-payment of taxes. And if you go to calculate those taxes, they were far less than 10% of what government was owing. And Nanga Company, with his accountants, one of my uncles who is in Maryland, worked as an accountant in that company. They said, okay, let's do a reconciliation of account, which is clean accounting practice. You owe me 1 million. I'm owing you 100 million francs. Give me 900 million and keep
the difference.
They say, no, you pay your taxes first before we pay you.
Yes.
Because we collect taxes before we can pay government bills. That was just a way to kill Nanga Company. And because they knew that the entrepreneurship of Nanga, Party A Nanga, did not have a match in East Cameroon, doing clean business, what did they do? As soon as Nanga died, they started inviting the family of Nanga, whom they knew could not run the company, because the company had been ruined, and they started paying the monies. But of what use was it after Nanga had suffered for several years with his company closed? They killed it not because of Nanga the individual, but because of the empowerment it was given to Southern Cameroonians. You remember at some point they suspected Nanga that he was importing arms through Victoria. I think the man was importing but rice. They said he was importing arms. Those are all the things that they did to kill our own entrepreneurship, our own company, and destroy our capital. Because you invest 100 million in order to get $1 million and reinvest that money to let the company grow.
Yes.
All the construction companies from France, they send the French lobby in the French embassy to tell the government, we cannot go on like this. If you go to the Accord de Coopération, we have priority for all government contracts. Now you are allowing this man because he's giving you lower bids. How are you respecting the Accord de Coopération?
Well, Gbagbo was thrown out of his country
because he stood up.
Partly because of that.
Yeah.
But let me say this, okay? It's very hard to discuss our issues without going back to what La République has done to our people. But I think what our people and us are beginning to say is that our sovereignty, because God created us free people, the rights that we have are God-given. They're not given by some individual or some organization. And but we do agree to work with each other in order to create a civilized world. If we participate and then they create a barbaric world for us that's very uncivilized and treat us like you just mentioned, then we tend to fall back to the rights that were given to us by God and not by any man or any organization. And I think some of the challenges that you initiated on the ground as lawyers and the fire that have people lit to the whole thing, and we all are going back to reclaim, because we're not going back to the UN, we're not going back to we're reclaiming what is ours, and we're saying, please take your UN away, take your La République away, take your France away, and leave us alone, and we're gonna make a life for ourselves the way our ancestors made a life for thousands of years before Europeans brought in this international system, because that's really where we are going now, right?
In fact, I put it this way: when a couple faces a misfortune of losing a member, that's when a spouse is lost. You can only mourn for so long. After that, life must go on.
Mm-hmm.
So the past should not be a muddy road where our vehicle of liberation gets stuck.
Absolutely.
We can only look back to that past as a source of fueling our defiance
and informing us
about understanding our present predicament in order to be resolute about marching forward, even at the cost of spilling our own blood.
Now, I want you to hold on that resolute, and that's why I started with leadership.
Yes.
Because all of this happens through leadership. There was traditional leadership, and that's why we survived, because there were systems.
Hey, you just mentioned something which I like to key in on, because some of these things are not noticed by a lot of people. You know, the government of the Republic of Cameroon did not only stop at killing our companies that were doing well, killing our entrepreneurs. They also killed our traditional institution. When they brought...
Before you say what they killed, explain how it was established. How was Southern Cameroon laid out so that, and I want you to go all the way down to the NAs and what they did and how that flowed into the federal or the system in Boya, if you remember that.
Well, you see, Southern Cameroon was built on the principle of participatory democracy, and the organization of local government gave an opportunity of the actualization of every community of people as not only beneficiaries but participants in the growth of themselves individually and as a community. You would see that we started in Southern Cameroon with the Victoria Division and Bamenda Division.
Mm-hmm.
Then eventually they created, out of Victoria Division, they created the Manfei Division. Then came the Kumba Division. In the Northwest, you found that they created the Kambe Division. Progressively, the power of governance was devolved to local communities, and these local communities set up NA, Native Authority Governance, where the people directly elected the people who were running their affairs at that local level on a day-to-day basis. And it is these same people who elected the members of parliament. So each NA community had a representative in parliament, yet Boya did not control the lives of these people so crudely. But when La République du Cameroon came...
Before you go to La République, so what really happened was that the NAs or the native authorities actually had powers to tax the citizens.
Oh,
then use the taxes
and develop themselves.
Yes.
And they recruited their staff.
Yes.
The council system. They recruited their teachers. They recruited their sanitaries. They recruited their nurses. They built their health centers. They built their customary courts.
They took care of their roads.
They took care of their roads, community labor. And, you know, the curious thing is, those institutions, those infrastructures, they are still there. Most of what has been converted to our hospitals are our health centers and dispensaries built by the native authority governance system.
Before you go there, Barrister, what I do understand is that after Fumban,
yes,
Ahidjo took over the government of the Southern Cameroons through the deals. And then this infrastructure that you laid out where the people tax themselves, build their communities, and so there was equal development as you go across the territory. That was killed by Ahidjo by saying you can collect these taxes, but all those taxes have to go to Yaoundé, and then Yaoundé will send back to you what you want based on the patronage system.
In fact, in West Cameroon, we had Inland Revenue Department, which gave the expertise to the native authorities in how to manage the tax collection and accountability. La République du Cameroon came with a taxation department that requires that everything be centralized in Yaoundé. That was an area of local governance which in the two alternatives was not within the mandate of the federation.
Yes.
They came there and they took it over. The appointment of DOs and making them part of the central authority. In fact, there's this saying that a sous-prefect is a direct representative of the head of state. Meanwhile, a sous-prefect or the chairman of the local council, which is the Southern Cameroon equivalent of a DO, was actually the representative of the people appointed there, appointed there by the people, recruited and put in place by the people through an election. So you have had this thing replicated. They allow us to elect our councillors, and the councillors elect their chairperson. Then the government comes in a place that is still like a village emerging into a town and say that it is a city now, so we give you a government delegate of Bamenda City.
Before you even go there, so here's how I understood that it was destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what 1972 was all about. My understanding is that after they discovered, or after they decided to invest in the oil in Victoria,
yeah,
that's when the French said that you must abolish that efficient system of independent people creating their own wealth like we are doing in France. We need to abolish that before we build Sonara. And that's how come that's the reason for 1972 abolition of the...
Curiously,
yes,
you just mentioned something about the oil.
Yes.
Do you know that Sonara, the refinery implanted in Victoria, was not actually designed to process our own crude, because the gauge of Sonara does process lower quality crude oil which is imported from Nigeria. Because even though the Nigerian oil wells and our own oil well and that of Equatorial Guinea are in the same trough, that of Cameroon, Southern Cameroon, which is principally Indian division and not even in Victoria,
mm-hmm,
is at the lowest level of the trough. So that if the oil wells in Nigeria dry up, the one in Equatorial Guinea dry up, we will still have oil. So the French, because they had invested heavily as well in Nigeria, and they had a better market for the good quality crude from Southern Cameroon, our crude is sold raw by the French companies and their other partners, while we import lesser quality crude from Nigeria to refine in Victoria. So if you look at it critically, if Nigeria were to say that, okay, we're not giving you oil again, the crude anymore, the refinery in Victoria will shut down.
Rogers, when I started this program, my intention was not to talk about our relations with La République. But this is a very good setup, because like I said, so we had what was ours. They came and stole it away. What they couldn't steal, they destroy. And so we are now forced as human beings to say, there's a time when we say enough is enough. We have been going to the UN since 1960. In fact, before 1960, we were going to the UN. We've been talking with La République, trying to say, hey, this is ours, give it to us. It hasn't happened. We used to think, when I was little, we used to think that Britain would come and help us and beat out these people. It's only when I grew up that I realized that the British and the French have had hundreds of years of alliance, never to fight each other, but join in doing what they're doing, that they did in the Southern Cameroons. So Britain is not our hope. Obviously, the French are poor fascists who by themselves have declared that without us they're not going to survive.
The wretched of Europe.
So we as humans, like I've already stated, decided that we want to take our own back. So it depends on ourselves to do it back. And we will not succeed without good leadership. And so I want us to come back internally. And I will, and by the way, where are we now in terms of that leadership?
Before we get into that discussion of the current status of the leadership, which Rogers would lead, I'm very happy you have made allusion, but it is important to get a clear-cut picture of the sort of conversation we are having. In the last show, I told you about difficult conversation. Just like we learned BODMAS in arithmetic, it is good to develop formulae in order to quickly get to the answer.
Okay.
One of the things is that we need to categorize our conversations, because our conversation is in a spectrum which can really be compartmentalized. One is a discussion about ourselves, like this leadership issue you're just bringing up.
Yes.
The next level is the discussion on how to deal in our assertion of our identity and our independence from the face that is primarily compromising our independence. That's the Republic of Cameroon. That's another level of the discussion. The third level of the discussion is much wider. So there is an inner circle discussion, there is a middle circle discussion that is in between discussing with the wider world and discussing internally. So it is important that we start from ourselves, like you just directed. I just wanted to clarify this. So over to you, Rogers.
So Rogers, so now we are back to where we are saying the world has abandoned us. There are barbarians running over our territory, terrorizing our citizens, raping our females, destroying our economy, preventing us from being humans. But God made us humans, and so we cannot be dormant. We have more than they expect. And so we now have to go back and remap ourselves. And we did discuss that for each of those, leadership is very important. I want you to give us a very short description of our state of where we are in that leadership struggle, and what just happened recently, up to what just happened recently, please.
Well, we know that the people are still looking for a leader. I suppose what happened in Nigeria, they said they were in a conclave. It looked as if it was a conclave for the Pope, because, we don't know when the Catholic cardinals go into a conclave, we don't know what happens in that meeting. So we don't know how the process played out. But they came up with a leader. I would have loved if they would have told the people how they came about that decision.
Before you go there, what do you expect from your leader? Or what makes you recognize somebody as a leader?
Well, you have to be able to believe in what you want to do. That's the first thing.
No, I mean you as a follower.
Yes.
Okay.
As a follower, I have to be able to know that the leader believes in what he wants to do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to have the faith that you can do it. You can show me that you can do it. And you have to believe that you can take the people to where the people want to go. So those are the characteristics.
How does he show you?
Well, he probably has to come up with a platform. He has accepted that he is a leader.
No, I'm not talking about this, but I just in general. In general.
We can take the case of Nelson Mandela, or you can take Lech Lewinsky in Poland, or whoever you want that you can pick in the 20th and the last century and the 21st century.
How did you know Lewinsky you're mentioning?
Well, but he was a labor leader. We saw what he did with the unions in Poland and stuff like that. You can go to Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya and how he led the Mau Mau and all those kind of things. You can go to Genghis Khan in the early Chinese Empire and see how he led the troops.
Don't go that far. Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, you can go to Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela is a unique kind of a character. And it is difficult to replicate those kind of people.
No, but the process that you mentioned is the same process. Nelson Mandela was a lawyer. He joined the ANC. We know what he did to be where he became Nelson Mandela and locked up for 27 years.
No, well, but before he was picked to be head of the ANC, Oliver Tambo and the others saw something in him that he did not even see in himself.
There you go.
So those are things people can identify leaders like that.
Okay, so thank you, Barrister. If you can help us with the same question, and I know you are a leader. I look up to you as a leader. So, and I know you've had leaders in your life. So, what makes somebody a leader to you? It's a very basic question, but I think it's good that we answer.
In fact, this is one of the cases where the appearance of being basic veils a lot of complexity. But this is what I know about the question of revolutionary leadership. They could pop up from the blues, but it is important that leadership has the qualities to deliver, as I defined leadership, that of service and capacity to direct. But critically, leadership leadership should not be announced to the people that have to be led. It has to emerge with traction. It has to have a profile. And if I say I am leading the community of Cameroonians in Minnesota, I must not make the error of saying that as a Bali man, when a few Bali people and their neighbors like Mancon.
No, you're going, Barrister. before you even I don't want you to discuss leader, and I think you're touching on what I'm talking about. I don't want you to discuss a leader who we already recognize as a leader. What is the process of being a leader? Because you can start a business of your own and you're the leader. Okay? You write and follow your own. Let me finish,
A leader must have a track record that assures its following that it has been moving and has the probability of continuing to move in the right direction and delivering what the people want.
Okay?
That might not be true, though.
Hell, go ahead.
Yeah, because before Nelson Mandela became the leader of the struggle in South Africa, he was basically a lawyer defending people who were being abused by the government of
the apartheid government of South Africa. Yes.
Of South Africa.
Yes.
So he was not any leader within the movement per se, but the ANC was there, and they saw some abilities in him. So a leader does not necessarily mean to need to have shown a track. The only thing that Mandela had going for him was his belief in the cause and his representation of the people that he had represented in Johannesburg.
Let me tell you.
But that's what I'm talking about. Because without being involved in representing those people, he would never have understood the case of the members of the SCNC. The SCNC got
The ANC.
The ANC got Mandela because they saw him like somebody through the representation of their members who has understood what their problem was all about.
No, but I don't think that you are saying that there is any Southern Cameroonian now who does not understand what the problem of the Southern Cameroon is. So what I'm saying is...
Rogers, I know what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now let's come back to our own thing where we just had someone announced as the president. There's so many questions, but let's take one at a time. You see, Skakov, right? Mm-hmm. Skakov can identify someone like the ANC said, like you just described that the ANC saw in Nelson Mandela, mm-hmm. because the ANC is a very focused interest group that goes around not only interpreting human beings, but interpreting any news that or any resource that promotes their effort, okay? So they can go around and also identify people who say, hey, we need a lawyer. That man is a lawyer. We've seen him fight these kinds of cases, or with him support us in one way, and say we're going to make him our leader. Mm-hmm. Don't forget that in South Africa, apartheid was affecting everybody. Mm-hmm. There was there was the ANC, and there was the part. There were many other parties like the Buthelezi mm-hmm. and others. Mm-hmm. So the ANC can say this is our man, mm-hmm. right?
The Inkatha movement. Led by Buthelezi.
Yes, but the Inkatha movement did not recognize him because the Inkatha movement was opposing. Mm-hmm. So the ANC has a right to say Mandela with... even then, they don't come and say, you're now the Oliver Tambo of the ANC. They say, you come and go into a league or whatever and grow him, right? Mm-hmm. And you know where I'm going with this conversation. Where I'm going with this conversation is that I have, and I'm going to be very clear about this.
Before you provide your clarity, let me ask you one question.
Yes, please.
Would you liken the following, quote unquote, of Skakov to the ANC movement? Because when you talk about ANC and Mandela, you see a mass movement that had already come to being.
Yes.
And now, that was like damming of a big river. Mm-hmm. And they were looking for a leadership that is like a turbine, mm-hmm. that can turn and mm-hmm. produce the energy.
Yeah, let me answer the question though. I think
there is Inkatha movement mm-hmm. of Chief Buthelezi. Mm-hmm. The Inkatha movement had Chief Buthelezi as its own leader, mm-hmm. and he also claimed that he was fighting for the blacks.
Yes.
Why did Buthelezi not have the same impact like Mandela? The equation is very simple. ANC was a more broad-based, organized movement compared to the kingdom kind of movement of Chief Buthelezi.
Yes, who was also trying to cooperate with the
Yes.
apartheid system.
Yes.
But for simplicity though,
Okay.
let's take.
No, hold on. Let's follow his analogy, right?
That's what I'm going to follow.
Yeah. So the ANC was broad-based, it was organized. So too are the people of the Southern Cameroons today.
No.
You sure?
No.
Yeah,
no.
listen.
No. Okay. I think
Hold on.
let's.
No, don't say you can
Allow
disagree
him.
with me, but don't say
Don't
no.
say no. Go
Well,
ahead.
I want the conversation to be organized, because if we start jumping around, we will lose our audience.
Okay, so go ahead then.
What I'm trying to say is he said. All I'm trying to say is that let's not go into whether Skakov is covering everybody or it's not. Let's agree that Skakov is like ACNC.
ANC.
I mean ANC. He was. I think his conversation was that Skakov is probably not as influential as ANC was.
Not as influential.
Yes.
It's not as representative.
Or represent. So let's assume that. But for the sake of this conversation,
Yes.
let's have ANC and
And Skakov as equivalent.
yes.
Fine.
Now you made me lose my train of thought. But let
I'm
me.
sorry.
That's okay. We'll get it, because we have to get it. You know what I'm saying? So the reason why I remember now. The reason why I wanted to state how I personally have looked at this struggle or the leadership of our struggle, because, and you can each state yours. Here's my approach. We have struggled for years in the United States, and we formed like 4 governments. They never connected to the ground, they never worked, and there are many reasons why they never worked. Okay? And so when the lawyers on the ground picked up this fight, and I saw them fight with a lot of knowledge, with a lot of resources, because they said that we don't even want your money from abroad, because we who have been fighting, we were very anxious to support them. They say, no, we don't need it. Okay? And then they formed the consortium. La Republique came and knocked them off, because they don't want us to be the humans that we are, so they don't want us to organize. And then we had some of those people escaped abroad. And I'll talk about the United States. So when the barrister came here, I thought, yes, these are some of the people who have been fighting on the ground. We need to support them so they continue, because they had built relationships on the ground. We've seen them fight our fights on television. So my thing was that we should support them, because we've tried doing it here, did not work. But what instead happened was that I saw Morris come up like mushroom. I saw people start talking about Morris that I've never even heard them discuss the Southern Cameroon issues. And I started opposing. I said, no, guys. Let's stop this thing, because we've tried it 4 times and we didn't succeed. Let's support the people on the ground, because they started something that's working. It didn't happen. Okay? So I've never been in support. And then I think it's Morris that came up with the idea of a prime minister. I said, no, we're in a fight. When you are in a fight, send those people who have punched their way forward, and because we know their muscles now, we know their minds, let's push them forward to do this thing for us. It did not happen. Then I heard about Skakov, and then I heard that Skakov have picked up the Morris thing about electing a prime minister. I rejected that, and I let Skakov know that. I let some of the people in Morris know that, so I'm sure all of them know that. Okay? Then suddenly, I hear that they're going to go into a conclave and elect a prime minister. And I went forward and I said, I don't want to be introduced into a leader. I don't want to be introduced to a leader. I want to know my leader. And that's why I've been going through this exercise to see how you select your own leader. I think we all agree that when you are in that basketball game, you don't just pick a fan who is in the stand wearing your jersey and say, come on, because they're not going to win for you. Mm-hmm. And so I thought the process was very flawed. Now, if there's a game going on and you pick a fan, maybe he's wearing the most expensive jerseys, or he participates in everything and contributes everything, and you put him in the field when he hasn't demonstrated how that he knows the game of basketball, has come to your practices, has been through the rough and tumble, and you put it to go and be your, in our case, it's not just like Nelson Mandela was recruited. If you want to say this guy is correct, you put him to the top. And I'm like, no, we're trying to build our country. There's no help coming from anywhere. We need to do a process that's better than that. And I'm sure that in our villages, when we are picking our chiefs and our quarter heads, we don't do it randomly. And this looked random to me. Having said that, I would say that Skakov has the right to pick Mr. Ayok to be their member and even their head. But to say that he is now the head of all of us, because that's the claim right now. I don't only deny that process, I start denying that, no, you're not my representative, because if you are asking me to join, I'm like, it would be suicidal to support you. Not that you cannot do, but I haven't had that process to learn so that I can actually go and talk about you or stand behind you.
All right, let me respond to what you just
Please,
said.
go.
I don't know if you have seen where I can fault Kakuf is that I have not seen any official release of their conclave. The SCNC is a product of the All Anglophone Conference 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's a steering committee and it had a chairman. The vibes that I've heard about whatever transpired in Nigeria is that Mr. Ayub is the head of the governing council, Skakuf.
So he's not the president.
You are
Let him
using
talk.
that word.
Okay.
So have you seen?
I have seen some.
No, have you? What has been the official statement from Skakuf? I don't know. I've not seen it. I don't know how it transpired.
No, but at least we heard that Njoli Tumbe was in the Security Council to introduce the new head of government of
Southern Cameroon.
That is somebody putting out a video and giving an interview to Inner City Press. And I'm asking for it is not Skakuf who went to present. Even Mr. Njoli Tumbe was part of the people in the conclave. I don't know, but what I'm saying is, where I will fault Skakuf is that it has given room for people to be able to speculate and make all these guesses and undermine our struggle. And I'll also tell you this: the people who have proven themselves in the battlefield, as you described, have refused to pick up that mantle. I have talked about Wilbur here. From my understanding, Wilbur was called upon and he refused. The struggle is not going to sit around and wait for people who have proven themselves. Let me finish. The struggle is not going to sit around and wait for people who have proven themselves to come around and lead the fight. I might have to paraphrase Don Alonso here in 2003 when he stood in Iraq and said, you go to war with the army that you have and not the army that you wished you could have. The Southern Cameroons now is going to war against La Republique or whatever, fighting for the restoration with the leader that they have, not the leader that they wish that they could have.
No, let me correct something there. The approbation of what the lawyers did between May 9, 2015 up to, let's say, the 8th of November 2016 and thereafter was not a one-man show, because you use the analogy of an army. An army is not made up of one soldier. And when you say that, when you now turn around and say one leader, there can only be a leader of a group. And the group, for example, that I constituted part of the leadership were lawyers. And I want to tell you, from my own personal assessment and from the vibes from within the territory, because what we do in the diaspora is to provide the requisite support, psychological especially, to the people in the territory. The lawyers feel that they have been abandoned in the corporate leadership that they provided very effectively in this struggle.
And why do they feel so?
No. They feel so because focus, as he pointed out, was misappropriated and abused
And that
by
affected
people who were not part of it. If, for example, Maurice and the other groups had not put themselves in a place whether they could rightly or wrongly be suspected of positioning themselves, but they said, these are the people who have done it, we are going to be behind the lawyers. The lawyers are not going to be there forever.
Okay, let me respond.
He's responding to you. I have to respond to you.
No, hold on. Yes, I am going to respond to him.
Yeah, you wait.
No, hold on.
Yeah, you go. You go.
I know
Please.
you're moderating.
Okay.
So you have made an excellent point. The question that I have for you is that what have the lawyers been doing since the December that you described that have not been acknowledged? Where have they been? No, listen.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the people who are stepping up to usurp whatever the lawyers were doing, it's because the lawyers have decided to take a back seat. I have not seen anything.
Okay.
What we have been seeing.
That's unfair for lawyers.
No,
Let me tell you.
This is give me an instant since December that you just described,
yes,
or since Bala was arrested, or whatever happened, that the lawyers have stepped.
In spite of all the threats on their lives, who are the people who are going into the military tribunal and making their voices heard, going to the gendarmerie headquarters to stand by people who are being interrogated? Is it not the lawyers? Do you find this negligible?
Is that
no, we don't find it negligible, Barrister. Your I think what you're saying is, Barrister, this is what I understand him saying. He's saying you're the premier lawyer who escaped. The rest are in jail. Mm-hmm. Who escaped to the United States, and his question is, I think his question, you can direct it to him. He's sitting right here. But this is where this is where I'm going to have a little question mark to that question. Okay, mm-hmm. He came in, and in fact, some people describe it as a fugitive.
Yes,
and he came with. But he was not. What I saw happening was that people were trying to use him to support themselves rather than say.
I don't
let me finish. I don't want us to focus. No, I don't want us to focus on that. Yes. What I want us to focus in. Our problem now is that Skakuf is sitting at the helm of the struggle. And there are people who started this struggle who have been sidelined. That is the premise, right?
No. Your case theory is that the lawyers have taken a backstage, and it causes me discomfort for me to talk. Some other people should come on this show and make reference to me, not me talking about myself. Because one of the things you have to understand is that as I came, in fairness to the people in North America, right, they invited me all over. I gave them the information. I gave them the strategy for organizing North America and to export that organization to Canada, Europe, and so on. And the people who felt I was coming to activate their own agenda, they went into an industry to produce lies, to hack us down. But I made sure I stayed afloat, because wherever people were ready to listen to me, I went. And I even went outside our circles and gave this our struggle the airing that it required. And then you consider that the lawyers have not been doing anything.
No. You are talking about what you have been doing. I'm talking about.
I'm not doing as Bobga. I'm doing as a representative of the lawyers.
Okay. I think we're totally losing focus on this.
No. Let's allow him to moderate.
What I am talking about. We are talking about leadership on the ground. That's what you said. We are talking about what is happening on the ground. Yeah,
Okay.
you can say that the lawyers go to court
Let me say this, okay?
every month when the people, they go to court. And after they go to court, what happens?
Okay, I'm
So
going to
we are
bring.
going to wait every day. Somebody goes to court, the lawyers show up, and then go back, and then every day they go to court. The struggle is not going to be fought that way. We are not going to
But I listen to you. Okay. Let
Okay,
me
what's your own suggestion to them,
Chief,
to the lawyers?
Please, can you hold your gun?
Okay.
When I spoke, I said a fugitive lawyer. Let's call him a fugitive lawyer, like some of the people he's saying truncated.
Let's talk about Skakuf.
I'm going to come down there, but you brought in something which I have to clarify where that stands.
Well, you suggest that you didn't dictate what you have to say. Can you allow him to?
So what really happened was that if he came, right, and the leadership in North America, we've been talking about leadership, and it continues. I agree with you. The leadership in North America had good sense to say, this is the man that has given us some results on the ground, let's push him. Would have gone much further, and I can tell you that the question you're asking that you will not be asking. But he was truncated and he was a fugitive, so he's still trying to feed himself now. And until he can house, clothe, and feed himself, he's not going to lead us. Now, let me answer the question that you mentioned when we were still talking about Mr. Ayok. Is that okay? You know, Rogers. You see, that's why I didn't want this to go, because you asked a very important question that needed to be answered. I do not remember the question, but I think you said something to the fact that Mr. Ayok is feeling a vacuum that was vacated by the lawyers. That's what you kind of meant. That's what you alluded to. But I'm going to tell you one thing, and I want you to listen to me carefully, because you may not like what I'm going to say, and you may need to rebut. Let me say this, okay? You seem to think that leadership or fighting this struggle is to go into a conclave or some parliament and then make yourself a leader there. Wiba became Wiba because he went into the parliament and made a statement. When he ran and came back, he went again into that parliament. That is not, he's going to the places where they've rejected, and that's not where you prove leadership. Okay? So this guy being someplace where some people replace him does not necessarily replace the work of the lawyers. My point here is that we need somebody to lead who we have seen in the struggle. He's proven he has his scars, because there's a value for scars. Because when it is said that when you're bitten by a snake, you're afraid of an earthworm. Okay, so which means that you know what to take care of. And so if you are coming to if you don't want to say that Skakov should just be Skakov and we don't support it, then you win that argument. But that if Skakov is trying to develop leadership, where they expect all of us to support that leadership so that we can win, I'm saying the process is flawed, and this gentleman may actually be the right person, but he comes through a process that's flawed, and because of that, he too becomes flawed.
Yeah, well, you have a right to your opinion, right? And this is what I'm going to tell you. Yeah, leadership is made of scars. You quoted Wiba, and I've always told you that I respect Wiba. That the fact that he left, he spoke in the Republic's parliament, left and came back, that is not leadership. But that is how Mandela was identified, because he proved himself in the struggle. And Wiba has done that. He has proven that he can stand in front of La Republique and tell La Republique what La Republique doesn't want to hear. Whether that is accepted...
Do you know where Wiba...
Let him finish.
Whether that is accepted to you as leadership or not, he has refused to come.
This is not really about Wiba. I was just trying to use him to...
Yes, I'm trying to respond to what you said.
Yes,
that
please.
Leadership is made of scars.
No, I would like you to allow him to talk, because it's important. Wiba is a Southern Cameroonian. He has put himself on the stage. But let's hear what he's saying.
So the people, my basic argument is that what? The people are looking for a leader. Those who are capable to lead, who have the scars, as you said, are reluctant to continue the fight. And Skakuf, which is a conglomeration of various pressure groups that have been in this struggle, have chosen somebody who is, to my understanding, is the head of the governing council of Skakuf, just as SCNC was the governing council of the SCAPA after the All Anglophone Cameroon, All Anglophone Conference 1 and 2. So until they say it's a head of government or whatever, I haven't seen that. And until the people whom you believe are competent to fight this fight are available to fight this fight, the people have to go to war with the army that they have.
No, what I'd like to...
Can I answer him?
No, let me just clarify something. Because this is important. What we are saying here is going to be heard within the territory.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, it is not for the ego or any special benefit of the lawyers, but you'll be harming the revolution if you denigrate the lawyers within the territory.
I have not done that.
No. You may do it unconsciously.
No, I have not done
I
that.
say you may listen.
No,
to,
listen.
You said we should listen to you now.
Yes,
Can you listen to me?
No, but what I have said, don't. If you are going to say the wrong thing, I have to correct you before you say the wrong thing. What I have said is that the lawyers have stepped back from the role that they were playing between October and December.
That is the statement of denigration that I'm telling you about.
I am not denigrating them. I am just saying what is happening.
I say
they have stepped back.
You just told the coordinator that he's entitled to his opinion. Am I entitled to my opinion?
Okay.
I'm interpreting what you have said.
No, don't interpret, but I'm stating what I mean.
No, but this is not about the lawyers. So
No. Let me say something, please. Let me say something.
What?
This is very, very important for us.
Yes.
We have all agreed here that a flawed process does not give us the right thing.
It doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard anybody talking about the Foley Hawk retainership anymore?
We are talking about...
No. Have you heard somebody talk about it? Because that was high in the discussion recently. And I want to tell you, the lawyers with whom we worked, some of whom are in Nigeria, some are in the United States here, some are back in the territory. We asked the question, this process of getting a law firm, we are the ones in the territory who know the nitty-gritties of our legal problems. Why are you keeping us aside? We need to be involved at the beginning. I say, we don't need you. At the end, when they had signed the contract, they started coming back and said, Foley Hag needs all the lawyers, Southern Cameroon lawyers, to come on board and give them information about what is and what is not, so that they know what to do. So when you tell somebody that he's useless and then you come back to him, this is what I am saying, that when you make a statement that the lawyers have taken a step back, their leadership depends on the people they are leading. If the people whom the lawyers were leading act in a manner that creates doubt in their mind that the lawyers are not leading just themselves, they're supposed to be leading a people, the lawyers have to take one step back and think.
No, Barrister, let me say this, okay? I really...
Fortunately, they have not done that.
No, that's why I was going to say that, the leadership, sometimes the leadership is only as good as the people they lead, okay? I just told you a story about one of the lawyers who came down as a leader, and he came here and there were people who already positioned themselves. Let me finish, please. I need to finish. Who positioned themselves and they truncated that process. But let me say something about what you said about Skakov having a right to select whoever.
No, finish the people who came here and truncated the leader. You have to finish it.
I already made that statement many times. Let me finish though.
No,
I need to respond to two issues. That's the first one. The lawyers' issues was not really the one that I wanted us to address, because, like you said, the lawyers are not performing right now. But I wanted to focus on the process, because something, the people of Southern Cameroon have been failed by people who meet in a certain room and say they are SDF. Our people put our money into, then suddenly they're fighting for, they become a La Republique party, and while our people are home and their children are being killed, the leader of that SDF is standing with Paul Biya, welcoming the players of La Republique coming back from some game. Okay.
May I suggest a way forward in this discussion? We need to make progress.
We're going to make progress. I want to let him know that what Skakov does is important to all of us who are fighting for this struggle. And if there's any group that through a process of, especially a group where, like you say, many other groups are joining into, and some of those groups I belong to, if they now go and then I suddenly sit as a member of one of those groups, and then I'm told, here is your president, by the way, don't worry about him because he paid this bill and that bill and that bill. If you don't have a problem with it, I do, because there are people who have lost families on the ground. There are people who are not going to school, and we need to have if the process does not work, even at the level of process, how well can we do at the level of performance?
I did not say I don't have a problem with it. That's not what I said. What I said was that the people that, to me, are expected to be doing what Skakov is trying to do.
No, you're blaming people who are not playing. Let's talk about the people who are saying we carry the mantle. Because I'm going to make the last statement.
No, please, I have to finish.
I want to make one statement.
That statement once I speak.
Okay.
I have told you on numerous occasions here that the diaspora is in a support role. And I think he made that statement too.
Sure.
No, we all agreed on that.
Yes. So to sit and say, oh, the people in diaspora, people try to no. We are going to support the people who are on the ground, who are doing the work on the ground. When I say the lawyers have stepped back, I mean the lawyers on the ground. I don't mean people who are running for their lives and stuff. There are people on the ground. They are not doing what we saw them doing at the Commercial Avenue. They are going to court. Yes, that is part of the struggle.
Okay.
But there's a reason for that. Their leadership has been incarcerated in prison. Their leadership has been dispersed out of the territory.
So we have to develop another strategy to counter that.
What we need to be talking about, let us be constructive. In these circumstances, what is the best thing that we can do? When a thief comes in the night and scatters the sheep, the shepherd comes back in the morning, what do? You try to gather the sheep, isn't it? You may even gather, out of 100, you gather 99. In the Bible, they tell us that go and look for the lost one. Right? We have not put together the sheep and the shepherd. And we are expecting the sheep to move ahead. Let me give you a cute example. In the executive of Northwest Lawyers Association, as soon as I left, my vice president could not step into my shoes. I will not give the details because this is not the forum for it. There was a secretary general. He too was being chased. He left. But that's an executive with several members. It is like your dressing changes when winter comes. So we are continuing to expect people to behave in winter the way they were behaving in summer. We need to be able to reconstitute. That does not derogate the fact. I've said it in several instances. Every Southern Cameroonian has a right to lead this struggle. Mr. Julius Ayoktabe has that right. You understand? He has. If Mr. Ayoktabe came up without the conclave of Skakov and made his own announcement that I have analyzed the situation in which this struggle is, and I see that our enemy, La Republique, has scattered our leadership in the territory. I am at the border country to the territory. I'm going to provide a new leadership that will reorganize the territory, that is going to mobilize the diaspora to get a connection with the territory and give the requisite force to tell the Republic of Cameroon and its partners that Southern Cameroonians have a unity that can be scattered for a moment but not for too long. I'm providing that leadership, and if only my business is to bring people together to reorganize themselves, I am here for it. Let me tell you,
I'll be with him 1,000 times.
I will be with him.
I'll be with him 1,000 times.
But that people go and see a worthy person like him and say that the basis, they insinuate that the basis of choosing him is because He has been a major contributor to SCBC. He has paid people's flights to go to South Africa and hold a conclave. It is as if the struggle is up for sales. I say no to that. And a bad process does not produce a good product.
Even if that product is good, because people will reject it.
Even in this present situation, Mr. Ayok still has the opportunity of wrestling himself from that process and proving himself that without that process, he could have still be himself and delivered what he is declaring he can deliver to Southern Cameroon. Brother.
But the process has made it even difficult for him to even do what he just said.
The process is like an infection, and it has to be cured. How can it be cured? This, I don't think it's a strategy discussion which is not meant for public consumption.
Yes, and Roger, I just want to say one thing that I wanted to say. I wanted to say that I think it is very proper to say that the ground is where the fight will take place. But I can tell you that the organization of the diaspora is very, very important, because if the diaspora is not there to support the ground, then it doesn't work as well. And I just told you a process where they had a ground leader that came, but people postured and frustrated the process. And do you know, because of that, North America has not been very productive in terms of supporting the ground, as South Africa has been, that they never really had that same problem we had?
No, I disagree with you.
Okay.
I disagree completely with you. I am going to state what I said before. Irrespective of North America, this fight is going to go on. And North America is an engine that can propel this fight to where we want to go. Whether it wants to be part of that fight or not, it is not a problem. I don't endorse the process. I call it a conclave, like the one in Rome where the Pope is picked.
Yeah.
I don't endorse it. Okay. What I'm telling you is that what I believe is that Mr. Ayuk, however he was picked, has accepted to lead this fight. So,
but that's a gamble. We shouldn't be gambling. Even if our process fails, let it be a process that we agree with, and that's a process that's been tested. It's a tested process.
If Ayuk stood up,
no, you're saying two things. You're saying two things. I have said that let us move away from the person, because I don't have a problem with Mr. Ayuk.
Yeah,
we had a problem with the process, but I disagree with you, and I can say this with a lot of comfort, coming recently from the territory. When you say North America can fuel this process, but it can also be considered as not a determinant, I don't agree with you.
Well, yeah, we can.
I do not agree with you on that.
We can debate that.
No, not a debate. It's not something that's open to debate. The greatest number of the most viable Southern Cameroonians in the diaspora are found in the United States. And the United States as a nation, in the world at least for now, stands as the symbol of liberty. If it were not for Franklin Delano Roosevelt, you know that.
I mean, I'm talking about the citizens of Southern Cameroon in the United States and not
I
the
agree.
Government. So let's leave Franklin Roosevelt out of it. What I'm saying is
the United States is the environment from which the Southern Cameroonians in the United States are operating.
The people of the Southern Cameroons in the United States, but a few,
if they are not organized,
refused. Yes.
They have refused?
Well, they are not showing it. That's what I'm saying.
No,
until they show it. So this is my point, and I'm going to repeat it. Even if Mr. Ayuk stood up and said, as you have defined, that he has seen that this fight is not going anywhere, and he is stepping up because...
No, I'm saying that we should avoid the person of Mr. Ayuk, because I don't want us to be seen as indicting him.
No, I finish what you
said. If Mr. Ayuk stood up and made that lofty speech that you just gave here to the viewers,
it's not just lofty,
that he is the person that he has seen that he can deliver, and this is how I'm going to deliver it. The next question you will see on WhatsApp is that, who is Mr. Ayuk? What has he done?
No. Just stepping forward there.
So yes, let us give.
It comes from his heart.
Yes, let us give him credit. For I don't know how the process was. I have not seen if Skakuf was honest. If they wanted to do a favor to this struggle, they would have explained to the people how they came to that conclusion. They have not done that. I have not seen it. So that is why I criticize them. The man has put himself out. He's put his family out, and he has said, I am sure that Republic is looking for a way to get at him now. So he has accepted it. So let us support him and see what he wants to show us that he can do. Until he comes out and tells us that this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going, and he feels on it, I'm not going to criticize him.
No, Roger, let me say something.
This struggle has short-term requirements, medium-term requirements, and long-term requirements. I do not want us to dwell only on the most immediate present. Can we move this process forward?
No, we will, but we cannot rush it. There's no look.
It's not a matter of rushing it, sir. I am saying that let us not beat a dead horse.
No, I think the discussion is important, and I'm sure that it is important because this issue is important to us, and the liberation of Southern Cameroon is important to us. But let me say this, Epa. You do reach people's pocket or people's support through their minds, and what we're speaking here is about the mind. If people don't understand or see how something happened, they will spend time questioning rather than supporting.
We have agreed on that.
So I'm going to end with that, and I know that I just know that Skakov needs to work better, and not only Skakov, any other organization, but it doesn't stop them from using that process and continue to punch the elephant in their own cut, because they said an elephant is brought down by 1,000 cut. If they can put their own cut through their process, wonderful. But I refuse to say that it is that we shouldn't have a right to say that, my brother, you and I in the same fight. I've seen you cut with that cutlass many times. It's not. Can you sharpen it? I actually have a sharpener for you so that you can cut your own cut better.
I kept clamoring for an opportunity to make us move forward. Can we agree that, at this present stage, we have an issue with the process that was adopted by Skakov, and there is not much we can do but dwell with a post-mortem on that process?
No,
please.
I think we concluded already. So I don't know.
Because let me tell you, what you have just done is that you are hammering on your own view with the counter view. I'm trying to give a middle course that we accommodate your point, we accommodate his point, but how do we accommodate it? We agree that the process is flawed. The individual, like every other Southern Cameroonian, has an entitlement to follow and also to lead. Let us wait. I'm saying this because he raised something earlier that Skakov has not yet issued an official statement.
I've not seen it.
None of us has seen it. An official statement.
No, I've seen
the press release.
Well, let me say this though. I've seen
Can I finish first?
No, you said something which I want to add some information.
Let me finish before you come there.
Okay, all right.
The practice of Skakov is that sometimes you see them, Tasang and the other gentleman, they will issue a statement about Ghost Town or so on in the name of consortium. Sometimes they issue statements on behalf of Skakov. What we are saying is that there is no such official statement, even signed by Ayok Tabe in his new office, about what transpired in the conclave. Let us wait for it, because a large part of our discussion is dealing with the vibes that we are getting.
No. That is true. No, listen. The chairman, is it the spokesman of Skakov has come out and announced this. It's just I didn't prepare for that. But
what did he announce?
Well, if you want us to search, we can probably search. I saw it on Facebook.
No, I'm asking.
He announced what the conclave came out and asked us to support.
How the conclave, we are talking about the process.
I'm not talking of a news report. I'm talking from my point of view. I want a concrete document.
Yes.
How many people voted? Who were those voted? They represented which organization?
Yes, and to legitimize the process.
Yes, because we are flooring the organization. It is flawed, even if they tell us that the number of people who are there represented every country, every generation, and whatever. The process was flawed. But at the same time, right? At the same time, let us have a document that we can point to them that, look, this will hold you on it. But let's move ahead, because This is dealing with, the short-term issues. But we need to make projections about where we are going to.
Yes. I agree. But I think we've exhausted it really.
I appreciate that.
Yes, it was an extensive discussion, and we discussed it exhaustively. I want to thank Rogers and Barrister Bobgar Harmony Mouton for being patient and thinking through these things. Because in anything you do, if it's not right on paper, it will not work in practice. And so there's value in sitting down and thinking critically. And when I say thinking critically, it means thinking very clearly with a focus on what you are trying to accomplish, without allowing personal interests or the interests of friends or neighbors or country people, like we say, coming to influence the decisions you make. Once you think clearly, also allow room to incorporate experience, because you can think clearly and if there's no experience, you will still be going out and trying things for the first time, and that is prone to a lot of mistakes. So let's think critically, and in thinking critically, we allow experience, personal experience, and the experience of other organizations that have found themselves in our situation, what they did to succeed. Let's bring those to impact our own struggle. Otherwise, we'll keep bungling around, trying new things, making wrong decisions that are not well thought, that don't come from thinking through, or from making sure that the people we select are good fit, and that those people have shown interest in our struggle. There's a thing that Professor Carson Anyangwe talked about, some people who are in the struggle right now, that they don't have liberation credentials. What that means is that they don't have experience. They have never, on their own initiative, shown concern for the problems, for the situation the people of Ambazonia have found themselves, where for over 100 years we have been ruled by foreigners. They go about their lives enjoying or suffering from what they want to accomplish for themselves. And therefore, when you give them your struggle, or when you make the wrong decision and the struggle enters their hands, then it hurts all of us. We should also learn that of the diaspora. I don't want to repeat what has already been discussed in the debate. I think the point has been made that, yeah, there is the Ambazonian diaspora, but the diaspora of the United States is very critical in what we accomplish back home. And I personally think that at this point, we are the diaspora in the United States is very confused, has been misled. Some have become what I call cultists, and we need to refocus, and play the role that we're really ordained to play for our people. And when we succeed, then all of us succeed. All of us. It is said that I can't quite put it, but that there's a saying about lifting all boats. So let's work to succeed so that all the boats rise with the rising water. I want to thank you for watching. Again, if you are not a subscriber, please subscribe and also join our Patreon and support us so that we continue to be the ones who tell our story, both among ourselves and to the rest of the world.